So I'm just thinking where I am.
You're on the sofa, Mum. It's okay.
Hi everyone, and welcome to my guest speaker this month. And this month it is my son, Samuel. Most of you know him, but some of you don't, I don't think. But Samuel is 25, getting old. And I decided to have him as my guest speaker because I wanted to hear his side of the story of having what it was like actually of growing up with me being a reflexologist and a shift creation coach as a mother, because so many of my clients has always said to me, oh, he's been so lucky that he's had that in his life, but I don't know if that's been the same for him. I know through some of the things we've experienced through different ages, it has been sort of ups and downs and goods and bads. So I just thought we was going to have just a real natural chat about it all and decide if it's in any interest to you all. Because it's been not just that, it's been on the spiritual side as well, hasn't it? So it's been probably quite a different childhood than some people. I'm not saying to everyone, because everyone has different things going on, but this is our version of our life. So I'm just going to ask him a few questions, and I will tell you before we start, I have no idea what he's going to say. I gave him the questions and then I trusted him. And if I don't like this video, I'm going to be panicking and finding someone else as my guest speaker.
I'll just put it up anyway, it's fine.
Yeah. Yes, because we're recording it on his phone. I didn't think that one through at all, did I? Oh, what am I doing? Okay. Right. So, first question is, what was it like growing up with me being a reflexologist and shift creation coach?
Horrible. No, but to be honest, at first I didn't know any different. It was the first thing to put out there is, as a kid, I had no idea that my mum was so different and weird. No, that just my mum's, the views and everything that she had were different to other people's parents. It wasn't something that you kind of know. Everyone just expects that everyone's parents the same, and it wasn't until I was probably a bit older that I started to realise and see the way that me and my mum interacted together, and the relationship we had, actually how different it was to others because of one, your work and your mindset. So in my older years, I guess you could say, in my teenager years, it definitely made more of an effect to me to actually. It definitely had its ups and downs in the sense that we didn't argue as much, I would say, as most parents and children would, but if we did, it was spectacular, put it like that. But it definitely gave me a very different outlook on life. As Mum said, some of you do know me, but I've been very lucky to be able to try lots of different things and go off travelling, and that wouldn't have been the case, I don't think, if it wasn't for what you do as a job. So, and helping me get that type of mindset to be able to do those things.
Yeah, because I think most children, don't they, all think that how their life is how everyone's life is. So it isn't until a bit later on, is it? And you start mixing with other people, you're like, oh, that's very different.
Yeah. So, and it is definitely, I think, the one that always used to intrigue me was going over to friends' houses and seeing them and their parents not getting on, and the first thing that would happen is a big screaming match where in our house, my automatic reaction as the kid and the teenager, stroppy, hormonal, whatever I wanted to be at that exact second, was to want to do that, and then trying to do that against my mum, pointless. Just de-escalate the situation and get me to talk about it. And that has actually really helped me throughout my life now. And I think my girlfriend right now probably hates you for the fact that happens, because I now do it to people in my life.
Alright, so let's just jump back then. So what is the earliest thing that you remember about me doing my job? Because I've got stories, I just wondered where yours was.
Earliest memory? Oh, actually, okay, so my earliest memory would be, I think it was after you came back after completing your reflexology training originally. I can't remember where you went off to, but it was actually when we were in this house and you were studying and doing some practicing, and I thought it was really cool because she was looking at all these diagrams of different parts of the body on the feet and on the hands and stuff like that, and going, oh, I want to learn reflexology. So Mum came to show me. I was like, no, I want you to draw on my feet.
Yeah.
Draw the diagrams on my feet. That's all I want. That's all I care about.
Yeah, we were actually in Cyprus.
Wow, there you go.
Yeah.
Okay. That wasn't it.
It's very similar to that. We were in Cyprus. You were 5. I'd been up to Nicosia.
Right.
And your uncle had come over and he was looking after you. So I'd gone away for a few days. He was looking after you because he'd come for Christmas, so he'd come early. And yeah, I come back. It was actually from my first section of training.
Yeah.
And I come home really chuffed that I'd learnt something, especially after my car accident and remembering things. So I was really happy with myself. And we had been drawing on each other's feet to learn the different body parts. And you'd seen that. And I remember you saying, and I was like, can I do reflexology on you? And you were like, yeah, and we laid you on the sofa. And I'm doing it away and I'm all chuffed and I've got like feet and I'm working all the different points. And you're like, no. I think it was like rheology, as you called it. You're not doing it right. And I was like, yes, I am. And you were like, no, I want you to draw on the feet. So then I had to get a marker pen and I was drawing on his feet, which actually really helped me because I repeated what I'd learned.
Yeah.
Oh, that class, but yeah, that was the first of me actually training.
Yeah.
And you being a guinea pig, yeah.
And that was me ever since after that.
So, one of the other earlier ones on the whole sort of more spiritual side, do you remember anything from?
There was... I guess I have a few memories. There's a few later on in life when I think I more took an active dive into it. I think from the youngest age was when we lived in the house in Reading.
Yeah.
It's quite hard to keep track. We've lived in a lot of houses. And I kept seeing ghosts. And if I remember correctly, it was a ghost of a young kid playing in either my room or my playroom or something like that. And I remember keep coming to you, telling you about that. There was this. I kept seeing this kid playing in my room, and I think we ended up finding out that it was a child that had passed away in the house or something like that, and its spirit hadn't moved on. And then I think there was a few others, wasn't it?
Yeah.
In the same house, we had. I think I was in your room, and I remember seeing this figure at the end of the bed, and it was quite a old, scary, crony kind of grandmother looking over the bed, and scared the living bejeebus out of me. But being a kid, curled up in bed with Mum instead of running away, and it just stayed there. But again, that ended up. We found out that was another.
That where the houses had been built, hadn't there? There'd been a lot gone on, I think, on the land. So there was a lot going on, and that was the real thing for probably both of us, wasn't it?
Mm.
You were picking up on things, I was picking up on things, and we started to connect on that. and I was starting to go into this world at that point.
Yeah.
You was about 2-3 then.
Yeah.
It was quite young, and that was the real sort of connection, I think, for us.
And it was weeks after that I started being able to levitate.
And your head spin round. But yeah, and I was actually told by my auntie, actually, who got me into reflexology as well. She was the first person I picked up the phone to when it was happening, was just keep your feet on the ground, Hayley, and just talk to him like it's an everyday occurrence that you've just seen something. So talk about it when you, like, we saw this. Don't forget to go and clean your teeth and you know, put your clothes away, because it becomes a natural thing. And that resonated with me. So whatever I've done has always been part of our life. It's not a big thing that we need to sit down and talk about it, is it? It's just, we can have that conversation at any point about anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I think that's really where a big part of how I ended up having it all in our life all the time come from that point where Grace gave me that bit of advice, which was very good.
Yeah.
And it has always been a natural thing.
Yeah, it's definitely always been there, but not been a outlier in our life, has it?
Yeah.
Kind of, it's walked hand in hand with us through my whole life.
And it's not always been really serious. I remember with Samuel was one of the stories you probably don't remember. Soon after that, because we'd been talking about it, we were driving down the motorway. I think I was going to my parents, and you're looking out the window and you're going to me, there's somebody outside the window, and we're driving down the motorway. So I'm like, okay, he's seeing something, trying to have this quite calm conversation while I'm driving down the motorway with a child in the back of the car, to then look in my rear view mirror to find him laughing and going, only joking. So all these things have just become very open and natural, isn't it? For everything. So I think then me drawing on his feet was just something we went through. So what was you just saying? You connected into this world at, you know, quite a young age. And I think one of the questions we just already jumped to was, when did you realise spiritually? And that must have been then, wasn't it? And then I think a few more has come in.
Yeah, definitely. I'd say those were some of the first times where it was kind of coming into my life. And then as I grew up, obviously there was other occurrences that, or other situations that it come up as well. We'd say all of this, though, there was definitely times that, there was definitely a period in my life that I want absolutely nothing to do with any of this. Yeah. I don't want anything to do with anything of what you do in my life, because it's what my mum did. Why would I want to do what my mum did? It's that type of thing. That, but I think the real time that I properly reconnected with it was when we were in Bermuda and you were working
at the healing centre.
At the healing centre, yes. And I used to come down after school when you were working there, and there was lots of other people at the healing centre doing different treatments in different rooms. And if I was sat there doing work, they would all come out and chat to me. And just being there slowly started to help me reconnect to my spirituality. And I ended up meeting a very nice lady there who did tarot reading. And I remember going in and sitting with her, and she was going to do my tarot reading one day. And it ended up being a lesson, and I learned how to do tarot reading by the end of it, which ended up leading into, I can't remember exactly what they called it, but it was kind of like a trial session, gathering, get together, that you could come and try the different types of treatment and tarot readings and reflexology, Nate testing, whatever it was. And instead of the lady doing the tarot reading, I somehow got hoodwinked into doing the tarot readings for the evening.
Because she was quite keen. She said she just handed you the cards and you started reading them, wasn't
Yeah.
it? And then she helped you out with some of the stuff, but it come quite naturally, wasn't it? Because she was quite shocked.
Yeah.
I remember walking out with a client, going to her, and she's going to me, "Did you teach him?" And I was like, "Nope." So I think it's always been.
Yeah, it's always definitely been there. I've definitely always had a connection to it, and it's that connection and the skills that you've taught me throughout my life have helped me get through a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
Such as just sitting down and meditating and going into my meadow type of thing to be able to help me refocus what I'm doing. Tarot reading, I have my cards with me all the time if I just need to have a quick reading and get some advice on something. Or as we mentioned earlier, the stopping, taking a breath and not having a big argument about something. As much as you wouldn't think that was to do with spirituality specifically, I guess the mindset and everything kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
So as much as I did try to push it away, it's always been there.
Because there definitely was. I remember there was times where I'd go to you, "Do you want a treatment?" Especially when he was hormonal, and the answer would be, "No!" Very and I'll be like, You sure you don't want a treatment? You really do need to get on my couch." But again, I had to respect that he was going for a stage where he wasn't interested and rebelling, wasn't it? Because I remember one time you said to me, you asked me that, "Do you want me to follow in your footsteps?"
Mm-hmm.
Was that because you felt you were being pressured to, or was it just because you knew there was a connection? Or
Well, I think it was actually more kind of going back to what we talked about earlier of our relationship as mother and son, and you see a lot. I saw a lot with the people in my year at school. There was a lot of an expectation of the parents expected their kids to do this or expected them to do this because that's what they did. And I think it was around the time that I was kind of not sure exactly what I wanted to do and was trying to figure out what path I was meant to start walking down. So I think it was one of those ones where I was intrigued to see whether or not it was something that... I think it was less that you expected me to do it, but if it was something that you had foreseen me wanting to do.
yeah.
Which it obviously... I think if I'd gone down that path, it wouldn't have made a difference to you either way.
No.
Which I know that for a fact, and I think it was definitely just one of those ones of I had no idea at that time what I wanted to do. And I think I could have seen myself at that time going down that road, because I did enjoy it. And I still do enjoy it. So it's definitely something that was of intrigue to me at the time.
But I think some of that's already come out in your work anyway, with your teaching. You think about things because you have the understanding of seeing that other people do things in different ways. And I know some of that's come from both of us, and that's how we find it a lot easier to understand and help other people is through our dyslexia and our things that we've had to struggle with. So I know when I've seen you teach, you're very good at that, being able to analyse the situation, work out what's needed to be done, and sort of and I think all the teaching with the sort of more mindset and open mind about different things has helped you along with that in your career and dealing with people through work and things like that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. It's definitely... It's allowed me not to just have the one train of thought. One, from the teaching side, as you say, I have different students coming in. Everyone turns up with a different problem, no matter how experienced the person is to get in the water. Sorry, for those of you that don't know, I'm a scuba diving instructor. So being able to change my mindset and the plan that I have for teaching allows me to give the students everything they need out of it, not just for the one type of person I've prepared the class for. And as you mentioned just there, with the working with different types of people, I've definitely had some challenging colleagues and bosses and that throughout the years, and I think I probably would have crumbled and burned a very, very long time ago if I didn't have the ability to be able to adapt to the situation and change the way I see the situation. Because if I was just headstrong and was like, nah, you're the person that's wrong, it's not my fault that you're trying to tell me that, and I've actually been able to change and reassess the situation and kind of move it forward.
And see what's, if it's triggering you and your trigger points, isn't it? Because I mean, that's one of the things that isn't it, that when we're dealing with those things, isn't it, people trigger us. So if it's triggering, then it's usually our issue that it's triggering. I mean, this is the part, isn't it, that is quite different to what a lot of kids and parents go through, is that we talk about these type of things quite a bit, isn't it?
Yeah.
Okay, what is triggering you? Why are you upset? What is the thing? And we've learned our ups and downs and learned to say, isn't it? Like, I have to sometimes will go, right, I'm being a mum, aren't I? Yeah. So I'm going to be my mum at the moment, and I'm going to be the loving, caring, supporting, and there, yeah, don't worry, it's going to get better. And then I have to go, right, now I'm in the coaching head. Why is this? What's that going on?
Yes. I remember that specifically when I was in Australia. Last time I was there, I was having some trouble with going through a few things, and I'm pretty sure there was probably about a month's worth of calls that I was talking to you almost every day, and it was switching back and forth from one to the other.
Yeah.
I remember just picking up the phone to you and you just going, I'm talking to you as a coach right now. You need to get this sorted.
Yeah.
There was no fluffing about. But at that time, that's what I needed.
Yeah.
And then it could have been the next day, I call you up and you were very good at adapting to the fact that, okay, I can see where you're at and your head's at today, and okay, you need mum today. It's okay.
And you've learned to say, isn't it? I mean, there's been plenty of times you sort of said to me, I just need to be in my shitty mood. Leave me alone. Don't need coaching. Don't need advice.
Yes.
And one of the things I remember, sort of on the lines of that, was you come home from school once and you were moaning about something that happened at school with some friends. And I turned around and said, well, what did you do? And you were like, why aren't you a mum that just sits there and goes, that child's horrible, you shouldn't do? I was like, because there's a good chance you did something for them to react. Yes. And I remember you really, really struggling, but you were a lot younger then, so I think they were the starts of it, wasn't it?
Yeah, no, there's definitely, I remember a few of those conversations.
And then I think when you was older and you got into trouble at Warwick Academy, and the head of year turned around and said, your mum's the only one that's not called in on this trouble.
Yes.
Did you not tell your mum? And you were like, yes, but she is not going to call.
I'll give you a bit. So a whole group of us got in trouble at school, and I remember everyone, all the guys of us that got in trouble, all of them were like, I would tell my mum, they'll call in, and they did. Everyone called in. I remember talking to you and you literally going, well, did you do it? Yeah, I guess so, yeah. Then take the punishment.
Yeah.
That was the end of the conversation.
Yeah, I'm not getting you out of detention. You know, I do remember, because they had Saturday detention, laying in the bed and staying in bed on purpose because he had to fit school uniform on, and I made him get the bus to school on the Saturday with his school uniform, and I remember waving out the bed going, bye, have a good day.
And you all think she's such a nice person.
But it was about learning consequences to actions, wasn't it? And things like that. And then taking responsibility for those
my
actions.
Yeah.
And it was something I was quite strong in believing. So what has been the upsides of, I know we've probably touched on some of that, but was there anything?
I think the main upside out of all of it, which we have touched on, is just the openness that we've had. Even today, like we've said, if something happens or something in our brain switches or changes to a different emotion, we've always been very open with the fact, going, I just feel like this, I don't know why, or I think it's for this reason, and then we can just sit and have a conversation about it and start to understand it. And I think it's one that I'm learning more now, that you're seeing me learn, is that even understanding it doesn't make a difference at sometimes. Sometimes you can understand something, but you've still got to go through it. And even understanding it, as I'm learning more and more now, can actually hurt more than not understanding it.
Yeah.
And I think I remember actually saying to you once, I wish I didn't understand why someone was such an arse. It would make my life so much easier.
Yeah.
But I would definitely say that's probably been the biggest upside for me, is I've always had someone to talk to.
Yeah.
Who obviously we're very like-minded. Because you moulded me and sculpted me.
Yes.
And beat me. Yeah.
Kept you in the cupboard under the stairs like Harry Potter. Oh dear, sorry. They will never know.
Apart from everyone who watches the video.
So that sort of describes the downsides as well then, is it? Or is there anything else?
I think the downside, as we mentioned a little earlier as well, of when I was growing up, there was times that I was moody or I didn't understand something, and I remember multiple times going to, can't I just be a teenager, or I just want to be a kid, or and I think what it is, it's an upside and a downside, I would say, of the fact that I was lucky enough, but had the struggle of having the learning curve quite young. Now I don't see it as a downside at all, and I really appreciate the fact that I know it. But I think at the time, I was cussing you. I was hating the fact that I was having to figure all of this out or be the bigger person in a situation where it's like, why can't I just be moody and angry and scream at someone?
Well, you can if you want.
Yeah. So I think at the time those were definitely the downsides that I really struggled with. But yeah, looking back on them now, I really appreciate them. I think it was a really good thing. Well, I'll switch that around on you then.
Okay.
What would you say were the upsides of bringing up a kid with your beliefs, and was there anything you found easier or harder with that fact?
Upsides. I think the upside, one of them, is you touched on that I'm very aware that we had less screaming as a teenager, as you being a teenager, because we'd already started talking about those things. It was nice that I was able to be me completely and see all that. I think some of it was more, again, it was just like, to me it was just natural. So I wouldn't say upsides. Well, the upside is, like you said, we've got a great relationship. We talk about a lot of stuff. We can very naturally, easily talk about anything, like we said, at any given moment. It hasn't got to be a big thing. I feel that the upside is that you really understand me. And I really love that relationship about us, because you do understand me.
Yeah.
You know, even the last couple of years, you've always been really, really supportive. Because from a very, very young age, you were very aware that I was ill.
Yeah.
So you've always had to understand, and because a lot of time we've been on and off of it just been the two of us, or certain situations where it's not been great, which still really been the two of us, even though there wasn't. You was always very aware, and always very aware when I got ill, to help me cope with that.
Yeah.
So I think that's always been good.
Mm-hmm.
So you having that understanding about other people
yeah.
is made that side a lot easier. And especially last year or so with the business, you know what I struggle with and everything. So you've really helped me on that side and been really, really supportive. Struggles, I think downsides for me with it.
Oh no, keep going with how good I am.
I think the biggest downside is that you teach them all this stuff, and then they hit a point and they spin it round and throw it back at you. So all the things that you've been saying to them when you're not having a great moment, they spin it round and give it back to you, and you're like, oh God, no.
God, he's such a smart ass.
Yeah, you're so proud but so frustrated at the same time.
Yeah.
You're like, I taught him well, but I didn't want him to say it to me.
Well, I definitely think that's been one of the interesting ones now that I'm getting older. There was a lot of lessons that you taught me throughout my life that I understood, and I got what it meant, and I was like, yeah, of course, that all makes sense, but wasn't going through it myself at the time.
Yeah.
And now I'm starting to go through it, or like you say, I'm seeing you go through something. Great fun for me to start throwing it back at you.
Yeah.
But then it is that fact of, that's the thing. I think I'm extremely lucky with the fact that you're my mum.
Yeah.
And you're always there. Is those lessons that I knew but hadn't gone through, I'm now going through them, and you're able to carry on guiding me and helping me through it.
Yeah.
Because the thing is it is very situational. No matter when it is, someone can tell you something 100 times, but if it's not relevant for you right then and there, it's not going to sink in.
Yeah.
So the fact that I've constantly got your support and you're always there to be able to help really there's nothing more I could need in that sense, because you again can very go, you remember when we spoke about and I'd be like, yes. But having that constant support is definitely always been fantastic.
I think something else that I always did find was that because of the way the more training I done and the more I was doing stuff, I realised that a lot of the things, when you have a child, they mirror you and their issues come up, and it's something that either you've not dealt with or you need to deal with, and you can't help them until you deal with it. And on average, we don't have to deal with it, but because it's what I was doing, I always felt I've got to deal with this. So then it was making me deal with my stuff more.
Right.
And I think then a lot of my lessons then could come out on you as well. So as much as, because I see my job and my life as near enough one, because I learn something and then I really get to understand it and I train with it, or as I train it brings things up, so I deal with it, and then it's easier for me to help and coach people and shift through their blockages and then move on. So that's been probably the biggest upside of doing this with you. It's been part of pushing me and keeping me going with everything, and it's definitely done that with work, the accident, because I don't know if I didn't have you, if half of those things would have got sorted, because it would have been a lot easier not to. And because I had a child, I had to do it and I had to sort it. Because
I was a pain in the bum.
Yeah. So the grey hair's not you.
Well, half of them probably.
The wrinkles are. No, the grey hair, the wrinkles are is Samuel going, I'm going deep diving. I want to join the Navy and do bomb disposal. Oh no, I don't want to do that anymore.
Yes.
So, but yeah, so I think it's been up and down and challenging as well on both sides.
Yeah, we've definitely, like any parents and kids, and you've had your ups and downs, and we've definitely just had slightly different ones, but also exactly same as anyone else.
Yeah. We still had strops and moans and
that was just yesterday.
wanting to kill each other, needing to walk out the room. Throwing books across the kitchen, that was a good one.
That was fun.
And that was me, not him.
Yeah.
So, yeah, no, I think it's...
we've definitely... you've definitely helped me shape where I am now. There's definitely been been able to take my own path because I've confident in who I am, and with the tools and skills that you've taught me, I wouldn't be able to have started up my own business, be working independently for a sailing event, any of that type of stuff. I wouldn't have been able to do if I wasn't prepared for it, which comes down to you.
So when people used to say I was mad for dragging you around and doing all this...
No, you still are.
Well, thank you. Thank you for your time.
That's all right. Can we undo the chain and ball now?
Yes. I give him his treats for chocolate. And
go back under the cupboard now.
Yeah, he's going back. That's where he lives. So that's where he's lived for the last year through lockdown. All right. Well, thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this bit of fun and got something out of it. We just thought we'd do something a little bit different and just see the background of what I do really and how it affects people.
Yeah.
Good and bad.
We'll bring the good in later.
Yeah. All right then. Bye. Thanks a lot.